In the deep silence of space, there are things that are never spoken loudly. Words that pass only in hushed voices, hidden behind closed doors of alien starships and smoky spaceports. Words that make even the bravest captains pause. Their hands, trembling slightly as they sip glowing drinks in the corner of some forgotten station. The word is Deathworlders. At first, the word sounds strange. It does not carry much meaning for a new traveler in the galaxy. But for those who know, for those who have seen them, the word alone is enough to bring fear. Entire fleets have gone missing after whispering that name. Armies refuse to march when they hear it. Empires, vast, shining empires, avoid the path where these beings walk. But who are the Deathworlders? And why does the galaxy fear them? Aliens across the stars speak of them differently. Some say they are demons in flesh. Some say they are cursed children of a broken world. Others insist they are a myth, a story told to keep young soldiers in line. Yet every whisper, every tale, leads to the same species. A species that looks weak. A species that should not matter. The name of that species is humanity. To many aliens, humans appear laughable. Soft skin, no claws, no natural armor, no powerful venom. Compared to the scaled warriors of Drath or the armored shells of Valorians, humans seem like fragile animals, barely suited for survival. And yet behind closed doors, alien leaders speak carefully. They do not laugh. They do not mock. Instead, they remember. They remember the battles, the encounters, the screams of soldiers who faced humans and did not return. There is a secret buried here, a secret that no one dares to speak loudly. The secret of why the galaxy calls them Deathworlders. The story begins with Earth, the homeworld of humanity. At first glance, Earth is beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests, golden deserts, a world that shines like a jewel from orbit. Many alien explorers who first gazed upon it thought it was paradise, a place to colonize, to claim, to rule. But those who tried to step onto Earth discovered the truth. It was not paradise. It was hell. On Earth, everything fights to survive. The air is filled with endless bacteria and viruses, always changing, always trying to infect. The lands crawl with predators. Lions, tigers, wolves, crocodiles, snakes, spiders. Even the smallest insect carries venom or disease that can kill. The seas are worse. Giant creatures with teeth as long as a warrior's arm hunt in the dark waters. The weather is violent. Storms tear across the sky, lightning strikes forests, earthquakes split the land, and fire erupts from mountains without warning. To most alien species, even one of these dangers would be enough to destroy their kind. Yet on Earth they all exist together. And humans? They survived it. The galaxy has a system to rate planets. Safe worlds are Class 1. Dangerous worlds filled with predators are Class 4 or Class 5. A Class 8 world is nearly impossible to colonize. But Earth? Earth is classified far above them all. A Class 12 death world. To aliens, the idea is unthinkable. How could any life evolve on such a cursed place? How could intelligent beings rise from a planet that wants them dead every single day? But that is the truth of humans. They were born on a planet of death. They learned to fight, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. And in doing so, they became something the galaxy cannot understand, something the galaxy cannot control. The whispers grew louder after the first contact. A few alien scouts landed, believing humans would be simple prey. They never returned. Later, an empire sent soldiers to study them. Those soldiers sent back only one message before disappearing. They are not prey. They are predators. And so the name began to spread. Deathworlders. Yet the strangest thing, the thing that made the galaxy shiver, was not the humans' strength, but their spirit. They did not merely survive their deadly world. They laughed in it. They built homes, cities, and dreams in the middle of storms and chaos. They walked through danger with courage and even joy. Where others would break, humans adapted. Where others would flee, Humans stood tall. The galaxy could not understand this. And what one cannot understand, one fears. In shadowy corners of the stars, captains still whisper about the Deathworlders. They share stories of human soldiers who kept fighting after wounds that should have killed them. Stories of human explorers who landed on worlds toxic to other life, yet found a way to survive. Stories of humans who risked everything, not just for themselves but for one another. It is said that to fight a human is not to fight for land or power or food. To fight a human is to fight their love for each other, their loyalty, their bond. And no empire, no matter how powerful, has found a way to break that. So the whispers continue, quiet, hidden, fearful. A warning passed from one generation of aliens to the next. Do not anger the Deathworlders. And in the endless silence of space, the secret waits to be revealed. The secret behind humanity's name. The secret of why the galaxy fears the children of Earth. To the eyes of the galaxy, humans should not matter. They look weak. Too weak. On the homeworlds of other empires, strength is obvious. The Drath stand, tall, with scales hard as iron, their claws sharp enough to tear steel. The Valorians march with natural armor thicker than most starship hulls. The Kraith glide through the air with wings wide enough to cast shadows across battlefields, their beaks and talons sharper than blades. Against such beings, humans appear fragile. Their skin is bare, soft, and vulnerable. No horns, no claws, no fangs. Their bodies are lean, not massive. Their bones break. Their flesh bleeds easily. Compared to predators of the galaxy, they seem closer to prey. Aliens often mocked them at first sight. This is the Deathworlder. This is the terror, they would say. This is the creature we fear. And yet, those who had fought humans never laughed. Their eyes turned dark. Their voices lowered, because appearances deceived. The galaxy could not understand that fragility was not weakness. Fragility was power. Humans did not have claws, but they learned to make blades sharper than any claw. They did not have thick armor, but they crafted armor from stone, bronze, steel, and later alloys stronger than anything found in nature. They did not have wings, but they built machines that carried them through skies, then into the void of space itself. Every weakness forced humans to invent. Every limit forced them to adapt. This made them different from most galactic species. The Drath, with their natural weapons, never invented better ones. The Valorians, proud of their armored shells, rarely change their ways. Why evolve when you already feel strong? Why adapt when you already dominate your world? But humans had no such comfort. On Earth, weakness meant death. So they learned to fight smarter. They learned to use tools. They learned to fight together, and this, above all, was what the galaxy feared. Not the claws they lacked, but the minds they possessed. An alien scholar once said, "If you face a beast, you can study it. If you face a machine, you can predict it. But if you face a human, you face imagination itself." That imagination made fragile humans dangerous beyond measure. When the first alien fleets tested humanity, they thought numbers would crush them. Humans were outgunned, outmatched, and unarmored. By logic, they should have fallen. But humans refused to follow logic. They bent it, broke it. They turned scraps into weapons, ships into traps, environments into battlefields. What looked like chaos to aliens was, in truth, a strange human creativity. Wild, reckless, yet devastating. Worse still, humans endured. In alien armies, if a warrior is wounded, they fall back. If their armor breaks, they retreat. But humans fight with broken bones. They stand with torn flesh. Some even laugh through the pain. Pain, to them, is not an ending, but a challenge. There are tales told in shadowed cantinas of human soldiers who tied their wounds with strips of cloth and kept charging. Others who fought with one arm, one eye, one leg, yet refused to stop. To the galaxy, this was madness. To humans, it was survival. Their fragility had trained them in a way no natural predator could understand. A human did not need claws. Human needed only will. Even stranger, this fragility taught them compassion. Aliens were confused by this. Humans protected their weak, healed their sick, and fought for each other even when it meant certain death. In many empires, the weak were left behind. In human culture, the weak were defended. And so when humans fought, they did not fight only for themselves. They fought for friends, for families, for strangers. This is what shook the galaxy most. Imagine a soldier who does not fear death because he is protecting someone he loves. Imagine an army of such soldiers. Fragile bodies, yes, but unbreakable spirits. That was humanity. To an alien's eyes, they looked like prey. But in truth, they were hunters who learned to rise from weakness, to turn pain into strength. The name, Deathworlders, spread not only because of Earth's dangers, but because of the paradox of humanity. Soft yet unyielding. Weak yet undefeated. Fragile yet feared. Captains who once mocked humans now warned their crews. Do not mistake softness for weakness. Do not mistake laughter for mercy. They are fragile, but they endure more than any of us. The galaxy had seen predators. It had seen armored beasts, winged hunters, and scaled giants, but it had never seen anything like humanity. The fragile species that should have broken 1,000 times, but never did. And as the whispers continued, one truth became clear across the stars. Fragility was their mask. Strength was their reality. And those who judged only the surface would never live long enough to learn the difference. For centuries, the galaxy had classified worlds with simple numbers. A Class 1 planet meant safety, gentle climates, calm seas, harmless wildlife. Perfect for farming colonies and peaceful trade hubs. A Class 5 planet meant danger, occasional predators, unstable storms, but still survivable. By Class 8, most species would not dare to settle, and then came Earth. When alien surveyors first saw Earth from orbit, they were struck by its beauty. Blue oceans shimmered like liquid crystal. Green continents stretched beneath clouds, alive, with forests and rivers. From space, Earth looked like paradise. Some called it a jewel. Others thought it must be a sanctuary world, gentle and fertile. But when they looked closer, when their sensors scanned deeper, the truth began to emerge. The numbers were wrong. The oxygen levels were high, too high, dangerously flammable. For most species, the gravity was heavier than most colonized worlds, pressing down on every bone, every muscle. The weather shifted without warning. Storms rising from clear skies, hurricanes tearing across seas, lightning striking with enough power to melt steel. The planet quaked, burned, and froze, all within the same cycle of seasons. And then there was the life. Everywhere, something was trying to kill. Predators stalked in every forest, every ocean, every desert. Sharp teeth, venom, claws, poisons, diseases. Even plants fought each other. Thorned, toxic, spreading chemicals into the air. To choke rivals, microbes evolved at terrifying speed, creating sickness after sickness, endless plagues. To most galactic species, even one of these threats would make a planet unlivable. But Earth held them all. The alien surveyors returned to their fleets, shaken. The official classification was spoken in hushed tones, Class 12 Deathworld. No empire wanted to touch it. Colonization was impossible. To settle Earth was suicide. But the greatest mystery was not the planet itself. It was the life that had grown there. Humans. Fragile-looking, yes. Soft, yes. But alive. Thriving. They had not only survived Earth's horrors, they had mastered them. They hunted the predators. They tamed the storms. They crossed oceans filled with monsters and carved homes from mountains that shook with fire. They built civilizations not in spite of Earth, but because of, and the galaxy could not understand. To them, life on Earth should have ended long ago. But for humans, danger was normal. Struggle was daily life. Where another species would panic, a human would adapt. Where others would surrender, a human would endure. This was the true revelation. Humans were not strong in spite of Earth. They were strong because of it. Every scar of the planet shaped them. High gravity forged dense muscles and strong bones. Endless diseases sharpened their immune systems into weapons. Unstable weather taught them to prepare for disaster, to expect the unexpected. Dangerous predators taught them to work in groups to protect one another, to invent weapons and strategies. In the galaxy, most species came from safe, gentle worlds. They grew soft under calm skies. Their evolution was slow. Their struggles were small. They never faced the chaos that shaped humanity. So when they looked upon humans, they saw something alien, something terrifying. A species born in a place where life was war. A people who carried the scars of a death world inside their very nature. And when humans stepped into the stars, they carried Earth with them. Alien soldiers tell stories of first encounters. A human ship crashes on a hostile planet. Other species would surrender to the poisonous air, the wild beasts, the storms. But the humans? They did not wait for rescue. They built shelters from wreckage, hunted food, found water, and fought back against predators larger than tanks. When rescue finally came, the aliens expected corpses. Instead, they found humans standing tall, wounded but smiling. The galaxy whispered, only Deathworlders could endure that. Another story tells of a human crew stranded in deep space, supplies gone, air failing. Yet they did not give up. They rewired their ship with scraps, patched holes with clothing, and lived long enough to reach safety. Fragile bodies, yes, but unbreakable will. Again the whispers. Deathworlders. And soon every empire knew the truth. To fight a human was not to fight an ordinary soldier. It was to fight a planet. It was to fight storms, fire, hunger, poison, and disease, all carried in the blood and spirit of a species forged on Earth. That was the secret behind the name. Not just their world, but what their world had made of them. Humans did not fear harsh environments. They came from one. They did not fear predators. They were raised among them. They did not fear death. They had lived beside it since the first moment of their evolution. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity's homeworld was not paradise. It was a crucible. And what it created was something no empire could ever fully defeat. That is why the galaxy whispers. That is why the word spreads in fear. Deathworlders. In every corner of the galaxy, order is valued. Armies are trained to obey. Civilizations build rules to keep balance. Strategies are written, tested, and followed with precision. To fight, most species rely on logic, on careful planning, on numbers that can be counted and predicted. And then came the humans. They fought differently. They fought with something the galaxy could not measure. Some called it recklessness. Some called it chaos. Others whispered the most dangerous word of all, madness. At first, alien generals dismissed this. Madness was weakness, they said. A soldier without control is a soldier lost. But when humans entered the battlefield, that madness became strength. Consider this. When a human faces a predator larger than them, stronger than them, they do not always run. Sometimes they turn and charge back. To most species, this is insanity. To humans, it is courage or desperation or instinct. Whatever the reason, it works. Predators who expect prey suddenly find themselves hunted. And in war, alien armies who expect surrender suddenly find themselves overwhelmed by humans who refuse to fall back. This was the first piece of their madness. They fight when they should. Flee, but there was more. Other species accept limits. If food runs out, they starve. If the air grows thin, they suffocate. If the land burns, they retreat. But humans, they break limits. They improvise. They find ways where no ways should exist. Trapped without weapons, a human will make one from stone. Trapped without air, they will find a way to stretch each breath, longer than seems possible. Trapped without food, they will chew bark, boil roots, and survive on things no alien stomach could bear. The galaxy looked upon this and whispered again, madness. But was it really madness? Or was it something more dangerous? Adaptation without boundaries. Aliens began to see patterns. In war, when human machines failed, they rebuilt them with scraps. When their ships broke, They patched holes with tape, cloth, or even their own clothing. Where another army would surrender, humans refused. Their madness was not random. It was survival, sharpened to a terrifying edge. Another piece of their madness was their strange relationship with death. Most species fear death above all. They avoid it, delay it, surrender when it approaches. But humans treat death differently. Some laugh in its face, some risk it willingly to protect another. Some even charge directly into it, knowing they may not return. Alien warriors who fought humans reported the same chilling truth. A human will fight hardest when they are closest to dying. There are tales of soldiers who stood against entire squads, while bleeding out, their last breath spent to buy time for friends. Tales of explorers who stepped into toxic wastelands smiling as they said, "If we die, at least we tried." To the galaxy, this was not bravery. This was insanity. Yet time and time again, it worked. The impossible became possible because humans dared to attempt it. Perhaps the strangest part of their madness was their reason for fighting. Most species fight for resources, for survival, for orders given by leaders. Humans? They fight for things unseen. They fight for friends, for family, for loyalty, for an idea, for a dream. Even for strangers they have never met. They will risk everything for something they cannot touch. This, more than claws or strength, unsettled the galaxy. How can you predict an enemy who fights, not for food, not for land, but for love? How can you fight someone who throws themselves into fire, not for themselves, but for another? An alien philosopher once said, "The human madness is not that they survive, but that they refuse to die alone. They carry each other. And that is what makes them unstoppable." And so the stories spread. Stories of human explorers who laughed during storms, calling them adventures. Stories of soldiers who sang while charging into battle. Stories of crews who joked even when their ship was falling apart. To other species, this was unthinkable. To laugh when death approaches, to smile in the face of danger. Madness. And yet, that very madness gave them strength. It made them unpredictable, unyielding, and terrifying. The galaxy had seen disciplined armies, powerful empires, and brilliant tacticians, but it had never seen soldiers who turned pain into fuel, who turned weakness into invention, who turned fear into courage. Humans did not fight with logic alone. They fought with something deeper, wilder, something no empire could copy. And so the galaxy gave them another name in whispers, the Mad Ones. Not as an insult, but as a warning. Because if you faced a human, you faced not just a soldier, but the madness of a species forged on a death world. A madness that refused to die. A madness that survived against all reason. And in that madness lay their strength. The galaxy remembers the first time humans were tested. Not in rumors, not in whispers, but in blood. It began with arrogance. A proud alien empire, the Krylth Dominion, had heard the new rumors spreading across the stars. Strange new species had stepped into space. They were small, fragile-looking, and young, barely beyond their home system. Nothing compared to the Dominion's ancient fleets, which stretched across 100 worlds. The Krylth believed the whispers were lies. They believed Deathworlder was an exaggeration, a myth created by frightened merchants. To them, humanity was prey, and so they decided to prove it. The Dominion sent a fleet to Earth, not to destroy it, but to test it, to show the galaxy that humans were nothing more than a joke. 10 warships entered Sol's orbit, gleaming with weapons. They demanded surrender, but humans did not surrender. What happened next is told differently depending on who speaks. In Dominion records, they say the humans attacked recklessly. In human records, they say they defended their world with courage. But in every version, the truth is the same. The Krylth never expected what came. The first battle was chaos. Human. Ships were small, outdated, weak in firepower. By logic, they should have been torn apart in minutes. But the humans fought differently. They did not move like other fleets. They broke formation. They improvised. They turned asteroids into weapons, hurling them into Krylth ships. They overloaded engines to ram at suicidal speeds. They used their own weakness, fragile ships, as bait, drawing the Dominion into traps. It was not order. It was not logic. To the Krylth, it looked like madness, and yet it worked. One by one, Dominion warships burned. Not because humans were stronger, but because they were unpredictable. No strategy could contain them. No calculation could predict them. But the galaxy did not fear the tactics alone. The galaxy feared the people inside those ships. Survivors from the battle told chilling stories. Stories of humans fighting even after their ships were torn apart. Crew members who held hull breaches shut with their own bodies to buy seconds for their allies. Pilots who stayed in burning cockpits, steering wrecks directly into enemy vessels, smiling as they went. Soldiers who kept firing weapons even as their suits cracked and their blood floated in zero gravity. The Dominion expected surrender. They found none. They expected fear. They found laughter. They expected weakness. They found strength. One Krylth officer, captured during the chaos, later whispered, "We thought they were fragile, but when we shot them they stood. When we crushed them they rose. When we killed them they died smiling. They are not prey. They are predators that pretend." The battle did not last long. The humans lost ships, yes, they lost lives. But in the end, the Krylth lost something far greater, their pride. Half their fleet was gone, the rest fled in panic, and the galaxy watched. The story of Earth's first defense spread like wildfire. Merchants repeated it in every port. Soldiers whispered it in barracks. Leaders studied it in fear. The conclusion was impossible to ignore. Humanity was not prey. Dominion never returned to Earth. In fact, they erased the battle from their records, ashamed of the loss. But it was too late. The galaxy already knew. More encounters followed. Explorers who thought humans were harmless learned the truth. Pirates who raided human colonies vanished without trace. Slavers who tried to capture humans found themselves hunted instead. Every story ended the same way. Humans fought harder than anyone expected. Humans endured longer than anyone thought possible. Humans refused to surrender, even when surrender made sense. The galaxy had seen warriors before. It had seen empires rise and fall, but never had it seen a people so willing to fight past reason, a people who would rather die together than live in chains. This was the secret that began to spread, the first real proof of why they were called Deathworlders. Not because they always won, but because they refused to give up, even when logic said they should, even when hope was gone. It is said that the galaxy's fear of humans was born not from their weapons, but from their eyes. Eyes that looked at death not with terror, but with defiance. The first encounter taught the galaxy a truth that no empire has forgotten. If you fight a human, you are not fighting flesh. You are fighting a will that was forged on a world of storms and monsters. You are fighting a spirit that refuses to die. And that spirit is the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The galaxy is vast. Empires rise, empires fall. But stories travel faster than ships. Stories pass from trader to soldier, from captain to child. And after the first encounter, one story spread faster than any fleet. Beware the Deathworlders. At first, many did not believe it. How could fragile humans cause such fear? How could a young species, barely walking among the stars, frighten empires that ruled for millennia? But then, more stories came. And with each story, the whispers grew louder. A pirate band, the Vecra Raiders, once attacked a human colony. To them, it was an easy prize. Undefended, poor, fragile. They expected slaves and loot. Instead, they found farmers who turned tools into weapons. They found miners who used explosives not to dig rock, but to destroy raiders. They found children who threw stones at soldiers without fear. The pirates fled. And in cantinas across the outer rim, survivors told the tale. They are not prey. Even their civilians fight like soldiers. Another story spoke of a stranded transport ship. A group of alien passengers crashed on a toxic world. Their food ran out. Their air was poisoned. Their leaders gave up. But the humans on board refused. They hunted dangerous beasts for meat. They built shelters from poisoned wood. They found ways to clean air and water. When rescue came months later, the aliens were starving and broken. But the humans, they were scarred, thinner, but still alive. Still smiling, the rescuers whispered, only Deathworlders could survive that. And so the fear spread. Alien scholars tried to explain it. They pointed to Earth's status as a death world, to the strange strength born from endless struggle. But explanations did not calm the fear. They only deepened it. Because if humans were this dangerous as a young species, what would they become in 1,000 years? Empires began to change their maps. Trade routes bent away from human colonies. Some governments passed silent orders. Do not provoke them, do not engage them, avoid them. But not all listened. The proud Vorak Empire, seeking to test the stories, sent a small fleet to capture a human outpost. They expected resistance, yes, but nothing serious. What they found instead was horror. The humans fought with traps, with fire, with their own bare hands. When their weapons broke, they used stones. When their walls fell, they fought in the ruins. Not one human surrendered. The Vorak won the battle, but when they counted the cost, they had lost more soldiers than in any other campaign. The victory felt like defeat. One commander wrote in his final report, "They are fragile, but when they fight with everything. Against them, no victory is worth the price." That report leaked. The whispers grew. Soon, humans were given another name in the halls of alien power, the Unyielding. Not a name of honor, but of warning. Armies were told, if you face Deathworlders, prepare to lose half your men. Merchants were told, if you cross them, you will not live to bargain again. And yet perhaps the greatest fear was not in battle, but in peace. Because humans were curious. They wandered. They explored. They stepped onto worlds where no one else dared go. They walked through ruins filled with poison. They settled planets others called cursed, and each time they survived. This made other species nervous. Borders felt fragile. Secrets felt unsafe. If humans could thrive where others died, then no world was beyond their reach. No frontier was safe. Some empires tried to ally with humans, hoping friendship could tame them. Others plotted in silence, hoping to cage them before they grew too strong. But all agreed on one thing. Humans were not to be underestimated. Even in the dark corners of the galaxy, in smoky taverns where smugglers drank and gamblers lied, the whispers carried weight. When someone spoke of Deathworlders, silence fell. Even criminals lowered their voices. One smuggler once said, half drunk, "I've seen a human walk into fire to save another. I've seen one stare down a predator 10 times its size." They don't fear death. And a thing that does not fear death cannot be controlled. That was the truth that spread. Not just that humans were strong, not just that they survived, but that they could not be broken. Empires could crush their bodies, but not their will. Armies could kill their soldiers, but not their spirit. And so the galaxy trembled. Because in a universe built on fear and control, humanity was a species that feared little and obeyed no one. The whispers turned to warnings. The warnings turned to fear. And across the stars, one name echoed in every shadow, every council, every barrack Deathworlders. Not because they brought death, but because they survived it. The galaxy had many names for them. The fragile, the mad ones, the unyielding, the Deathworlders. But behind every title there was still one question. The same question whispered in councils, in war rooms, in quiet corners of alien stations. Why? Why did this one species inspire such fear? Why did even mighty empires hesitate to face them? Why did the word human send a chill across the stars? The answer was not strength alone. It was not weapons or numbers or technology. Others had more of those. It was not even Earth itself, though Earth had forged them. The secret was something deeper, something no scanner could measure. something no general could defeat. The secret was their spirit. Humans were strange among the stars. To most species, survival was the only goal. Eat, fight, reproduce, endure. But humans wanted more. They dreamed, they built, they reached. They risked everything for ideas, for feelings, for things that could not be touched. This is what unsettled the galaxy. Most humans fought not only for survival but for love, for loyalty, for freedom, for hope, for the future of children not yet born, for strangers they had never met. And this made them dangerous. Because how do you defeat an enemy who does not fight for themselves? How do you break someone who is willing to die not for food or land but for something greater? Empires tried to understand it. They sent spies, scholars, philosophers. They studied human history, and what they found terrified them even more. They saw a species that had fought itself for thousands of years yet rose again and again. Wars that should have ended them only made them stronger. Disasters that should have broken them only forged unity. They suffered, they bled, they nearly destroyed themselves, yet each time they rebuilt, climbing higher than before. What kind of species survives endless pain and still chooses to hope? One alien philosopher wrote, "To face humanity is to face the storm. You cannot reason with the storm, you cannot bribe it, you cannot frighten it, you can only endure it and pray it passes. But the storm of humanity does not pass. It spreads." For when humans walked among the stars, they carried Earth within them, the struggle, the pain, the laughter in the face of death. And they shared it. They inspired others. Some alien slaves saw humans resist and began to resist too. Some oppressed worlds saw humans rise and began to rise too. Empires began to feel their control weaken, not because humans conquered them, but because humans reminded others that chains could be broken. This was the final reason the galaxy feared them. Humanity's spirit was contagious. To fight a human was to fight an idea. And ideas cannot be killed with weapons. And so the whispers grew. Not just about Earth, not just about battles, but about the truth. The secret behind the name Deathworlder was never only about Earth being deadly. It was about what Earth had created, a species that looked fragile, but carried unbreakable hearts. A people who laughed at death. A people who refused to surrender. A people who fought not only to live, but to give meaning to life. One commander of a fallen empire once said in his final words, "We thought we feared their bodies. We thought we feared their weapons. But no. What we truly feared was their spirit, because spirit cannot be conquered." And so the galaxy began to tremble, not at human claws or teeth, but at human will. In the end, the galaxy understood. Humans were not called Deathworlders because they killed. They were called Deathworlders because they survived what should have killed them. They endured the impossible. They carried the impossible with them, and they forced others to face it too. This was the true secret. When an alien child asked their parent why humans were feared, the answer was whispered softly. Because they come from death, and they carry life stronger than any of us. And, in the great silence of the stars, one truth remained. Empires would fall, armies would crumble. But as long as one human stood, as long as one heart beat with defiance, the legend would continue. The whispers would never fade. Deathworlders, not because they bring death, but because nothing, not even death itself, can stop them.